Hello, hello. Is this thing on? Let us see how we're doing. Looking a bit better today. I've actually got two monitors so I can keep track of what's going on. Let's see if the audio is working. All right. Yeah, it looks like we are set. So, welcome to now let me share this link out. How do I do that? Share it on the Twitter. Let's do that real quick. We're live. MLS Fantasy. All right. So let's try this again. Had fun with this last week. Yeah, let's do it. All right. I think everything is set. Then this will post as a video for anyone unable to join. Let's see. All right, let's get things started. So, yeah, another build my team for MLS Fantasy Round 10. I've got my steps over here on the right side. You know, every week is different. So just want to walk you guys through my process and yeah, what the team will start to look like for round 10. Most likely I'll be doing some change ups throughout the week as I tinker some players in and out. You know, there's a lot of good fantasy content out there. You've got the Dropping Points podcast. You've got the MLS Fantasy Boss, MLS Fantasy Insider. So listen to those guys. We'll see if I end up making any changes. But yeah, hopefully this is helpful just to, give you some thoughts on how to build your team, what the strategy might look like for round 10. As I feel like there's going to be a good amount of chalk players, but at the same time, good opportunity for some differentials. So yeah, step one, shameless plug here. Be sure to go watch the round 10 MLS fantasy player picks and tiers that I posted on Tuesday instead of Monday this week. Apologies for the delay. But yeah, I'll just go through all the different keepers, defenders, midfielders, forwards, and captain picks I recommend. Oh, hey, Jordy. Welcome to the live stream. Yeah, so we've got that going on. Definitely recommend giving that a watch. Just gives you a good overview on, players I'd recommend for the round. All right, so step two, I'll just sort of go through, the different matchups for the week and call out what looks good from a fantasy perspective. So this week, timing is a bit strange. We've got a lot of 7:30 games and I think only one late game really. So from a fantasy perspective, if you're looking at some switcheroos, I recommend, Austin, LA Galaxy. So I do like that game. So I'll write that down. Good for switcheroos. Columbus versus Montreal because Columbus is crushing it right now, especially Cucho. But do keep an eye out on lineups. This will be lineup dependent. As I believe Columbus, last time I checked the score, we're winning 1-0 versus Monterrey in the Champions Cup. So that's great. DC United, I like their attack versus Seattle. Mainly because Seattle is missing some defense. FC Cincinnati versus Colorado. I like Cincy's attack here. and defense. However, Colorado is known to score. So we will see how that ends up looking. All right, what else do we got here? So, yeah, Cincinnati. I do like, obviously, Inter Miami as they're playing New England. Just keep an eye out on lineups just to make sure Messi and co are starting. And then from a attack defense standpoint, I like New York City versus Charlotte. Red Bulls, Whitecaps, I'm not a huge fan of this week. Whitecaps are looking good. But yeah, Red Bulls, they're at home. They're pretty good defensively, so I'm not a huge fan of that matchup versus all the other matchups going on. Orlando versus Toronto is a tough one. It could go Orlando's way, or Toronto would surprise us all and do well away. So that's probably going to be a because MLS type of matchup, but still some decent options there. Philly versus Real Salt Lake, mainly just for Wagner. Chicago, Atlanta, mainly because Chicago is so poor right now. I do like some of the away attackers there. FC Dallas, Houston, I'm probably not going to touch. Houston haven't been putting a lot together offensive lately. And FC Dallas are at home, so I'm not a huge fan of that one. I do like Minnesota versus SKC. SKC is known to let in some goals, and Minnesota are trending, on the upwards. Nashville, San Jose, I would like, maybe a couple years ago I would take Connie in this matchup, but I'm not a huge fan this week. Then LAFC versus Portland, as there's the late game you could use for some switcheroos. All right. So that we've got that covered, we've got some matchups. Who are my locks for the week? So just looking at these lineups from a Galaxy standpoint, I watched that game versus San Jose. Was a big fan of Paintsill. He was involved, in the 18 on the attack. So definitely opportunities there for assists, for goals. So I like Paintsill a bit more than Pooch this week. I was thinking about possibly a forward. We'll see how that looks. Not one of my locks right now, but Paintsill definitely a lock for me. Columbus, I'm still hesitant about just because of CCC. DC, pretty set on Benteke. He is pretty goal dependent, but I feel like with Seattle missing some defenders, Benteke could get some goals there. Cincinnati, you got to go with Acosta. He's a great matchup at home. Can't miss that. Inter Miami, Messi, of course. And then New York City, Santi's been on fire recently. You got to keep rolling with Santi. And then Orlando versus Toronto. No locks necessarily for me. We'll see how that team build ends up going. Philly versus Real Salt Lake. Like Wagner. Put Wagner in this week. Chicago versus Atlanta. Not sure if I'm set on any Atlanta players at the moment. Minnesota versus SKC. I like Load this week. Definitely like Load. And let's see. LAFC. Got to go with Buanga as the lock there. All right, so now that I've got my lock set, thinking about strategy, definitely going to run a keeperoo. So let's get that set up with, probably going to roll with McCarthy on the front end, as all of these other keepers, with the 7:30 games going into LA Portland game, I see goals in both of those games. So I wouldn't recommend having them on the back end of a keeperoo. I'm just going to hope for the best with McCarthy and then go with one of these keepers that I see potentially having a better chance of a clean sheet. So I think I'm going to like McCarthy into Freese as they're playing Charlotte. Charlotte's away. Not looking too great away. And then I've got some defenders to fill in and a midfielder. All right, so defense, in terms of clean sheets, I'm liking Cincinnati. I feel let in some goals with Colorado. Columbus has a decent shout with Montreal missing their strikers, but at the same time, I think Laster's been scoring. Toy's not a bad, backup striker. I do like Thorhalson in Orlando against Toronto, although I could see Toronto scoring as it's hard to keep track of Orlando. So yeah, I think I'll go with, I feel like I'll see if I can put Lennon in with Atlanta. So I'll slot Lennon in, though he is very expensive. And maybe I'll double up with NYCFC. All right. So let's bring in Martins, NYCFC. Got a couple of defenders left and a midfielder. So how much do I have left? 20 mil. May need to end up using a scrub here just to free up some cash. So I'll put in Dyer, I guess, from St. Louis. St. Louis is on bye. So I've got another defender. So I'll probably keep Wagner and Lennon on the field. Bring in Martins and another defender, and then put a midfielder up here. So I'll put in a hit or miss defender for Orlando. Thorhalson from Orlando. And then as a backup midi, I probably would want a Vander. How much money do I have? I don't have a Vander money. I've got 8.3 left. So let's see what we got. Roll the dice with Bogusz. See how much he is. 8.5. All right. We can work with that. All right, so now we've got these guys in. Let's do some reorganizing. I'll put Bogusz on the field. So at least the way this would work out, now that I can get a bit organized. So for the keeperoo, looking at my strategy for the week, since we filled in the gaps. So I've got McCarthy, see how he does, and then we'll swap in Freese if McCarthy doesn't get the clean sheet. I've got Wagner and Lennon as my starting defenders. Philly are decent defensively. Only undefeated team in the MLS. Go Union. So I like Wagner. He's on set pieces. And then Lennon, also a bit dangerous, but he hasn't really hit too much in the past few weeks. So let's hope Giacomakis is back and they can really turn things on against Chicago. And then I'll take the best out of, Martins or Thorhalson. And they'll sub in automatically for Dyer there against, for my auto-roo. All right, and then looking at my midfield, let's organize these guys a bit from a timing perspective. It's just a little way for me to keep organized as the games go on, sort of work my way from left to right. So I got Galaxy, Cincy, New York. So I'll put in Santi next. And then after Santi, we'll go with Load. And after Load, we'll go with Bogusz. All right, and then for strikers, we'll want... Let's see. Benteke, I feel, is hit or miss as well. He put up a 2 last week, but you can see he can also pop off. So I'm going to put Benteke on the bench. And then put Messi in for Buwanga. And put Buwanga on. Because I'm pretty set on having Buwanga play at home against a Portland team who can let in some goals. All right, so I need 2 mil, or 0.2 mil. I like this team a lot. So basically what would happen here, I'll get the best 2 out of these guys. I'll sub on for Dyer. Painsil, Lucho, Santi, Load, Bogusz. So if Benteke does well, I'll probably scrub Mateusz, Bogusz. And then I'll keep Messi and Buwanga. If Messi's not starting, well, actually, I need to figure out this deal. Do I want to keep Thorhalson or swap out someone for Martins? I'll probably want to keep Thorhalson and see who else we can work with for New York City. Who else we got? O'Toole, he got an 8. He got an 8. Let's put in O'Toole, save some money. All right, so I got 0.7. Yeah, so I like this lineup a lot. Let me save that. So let's look at some things that could go down. All right, so if Messi's not starting, probably switch him up. Keep Messi on the bench because he's Messi and he could easily come in and do anything. And if he's not starting, I would probably captain Buwanga or Lucho. I'm torn. This has been an interesting fantasy season. I would always captain midfield as they've been more consistent. But yeah, I feel like forwards have really been scoring a lot this year and been a key part of, your success in fantasy. So I'd probably keep Messi, put him on the bench. Do I still want Benteke? Most likely. And then if Messi does well, scrub out Bogusz still. So yeah, I think I like this lineup. Let's swap Messi back in. Give him the armband. Yeah, so this is where I'm at. That's my process. That's what I go through for my lineups. Yeah, leave some comments, guys. Let me know what you think of the team. Let me know what you guys are looking at. If you have any comments, questions on round 10, and I'll share my locked in team for the most part for round 10 on Friday. And yeah, see everyone soon.